Whose dog is that? Is he with the family?
It was late morning. Sunlight spilled through the tall, stained glass windows of a small-town church. Dust drifted through the beams of light like slow-moving stars. The congregation sat in silence, dressed in dark colors. At the front of the room rested a simple wooden casket. Beside it stood a framed photo of Thomas Hale, late 60s, kind eyes, a guarded smile. His son, Liam Hale, sat in the second pew, mid-40s, shoulders tense, jaw tight, a man trying to stay composed. The pastor lifted his hands. "Let us bow our heads and join together in a moment of silent prayer." The room obeyed, heads lowered, eyes closed. The church fell into a deep, heavy quiet. Then a sound echoed. The heavy double doors at the back of the church pushed open, and a German shepherd walked inside. He was lean but strong, his coat a mix of black and tan, a little dusty, a little rough around the edges. No collar, no leash. He paused in the doorway, ears perked as he scanned the room. Whispers spread through the pews. "Whose dog is that?" a woman whispered. "Is he with the family?" a man asked. The pastor glanced up mid-prayer, startled, but did not speak. The German shepherd stepped forward. He walked straight down the center aisle, not wandering, not sniffing, not anxious, just purposeful. Row after row of faces turned to follow him. He passed the casket and paused, staring at Thomas Hale's photo with soft, sorrowful eyes. Then he moved again. He walked until he stopped beside Liam. Liam's head was still bowed, his eyes were closed, and silent tears had begun to trace down his face. He loved his father, but their relationship had always been complicated. Mostly silence, mostly distance. Nothing dramatic, just two people who never figured out how to talk. The dog looked at him for a quiet moment, then gently lowered his head and rested it on Liam's knee. Liam's eyes opened. He stared at the dog, confused, startled, unsure. The dog looked back up at him with calm, steady eyes. Liam stiffened. He had never seen this dog before. But the dog settled beside him as if he belonged there. The service continued. But everyone's attention kept drifting back to the German shepherd curled quietly beside the second row. Liam Hale was not the kind of man who cried in public. For most of his life, he wasn't even the kind of man who cried in private. He sat stiffly, one hand pressed against his thigh. The dog nudged that hand gently. Slowly, almost cautiously, Liam rested his hand on the dog's head. His fur felt warm. The service ended. The church felt different now, less like a ceremony, more like a quiet gathering after something unexplainable. The German shepherd stayed right at Liam's side, quiet, gentle, steady. Outside the church, people gathered in small clusters. Someone asked Liam, "Did your dad have a dog?" Liam shook his head. "No, not that I know of." An older man from the neighborhood approached with certainty in his voice. "I've seen that dog," he said. "Your dad used to give him part of his breakfast every morning." Liam blinked, surprised. He hadn't known that. The man continued. "Your dad sat on the bench outside the hardware store. That dog always came to him. Nobody owned him. Your dad was the closest thing that dog had." Liam absorbed this quietly. No tears, just a subtle shift in his expression, a realization settling in. The next day, Liam went to the bench the neighbor mentioned. It was a simple, weathered bench outside the hardware store. He sat down. The German shepherd was there too. The German shepherd sat beside him, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Same position, same closeness, just as he had done with Thomas Hale. The store owner, Mr. Miller, stepped outside, wiping his hands on a rag. He looked at Liam for a moment. "You're Tom's boy, aren't you?" Liam nodded. "Yeah." Mr. Miller looked down at the dog. "He found you then." Liam frowned slightly. You know this dog? Mr. Miller gave a small, tired smile. Yeah, he practically lived here the last year. Your dad called him Buddy. He talked to the dog like he'd known him forever. But mostly, he talked about you. Liam stiffened. Me? He talked to him about me? Mr. Miller nodded. He didn't know how to talk to you without making things worse. Every time he tried to say he was proud, it came out like criticism. He thought maybe it was too late. Liam looked at Buddy. Buddy met his gaze, calm, solid, unwavering. So how did he get to the church? Liam asked. Mr. Miller sighed. When your father stopped showing up a few days ago, Buddy kept pacing around here. Then, on the day of the funeral, people saw him following the black cars. He tracked the procession like he knew exactly where your dad would be. Liam listened, and slowly, it became clear. The dog hadn't come to the funeral because he understood death. He hadn't come out of intuition. He had simply followed what was familiar. The people, the clothes, the scents, the habits of the man who showed him kindness. And when he saw Liam, someone who smelled like the man he trusted, someone who sat the same way, someone holding his grief quietly, he chose him. That afternoon, Liam pet the dog again. It was still awkward for him. He wasn't used to softness. Buddy leaned into it. A small connection formed, a quiet and honest connection. Liam murmured, "He talked to you more than he talked to me, didn't he?" Buddy rested his head on Liam's lap, the same gesture he had given Thomas. Liam let out a slow breath, and for the first time in years, something inside him loosened. Liam brought him home. Buddy curled up beside him on the living room floor. Liam sat down next to him, leaning his back against the sofa. A single tear fell, not out of heartbreak, but out of something finally softening, a space opening, a silence lifting. Thomas Hale never learned how to say the things he felt, but he expressed them in the quiet ways he understood, in consistency, kindness, and simple routine. And the dog who walked into a church mid-prayer carried those unspoken messages to the only person who needed to hear them. Do you think Buddy chose Liam? Or was he simply following the last piece of Thomas he could find?